This kind of sucks here, but I think we're quite deep. We have a relatively strong set, so I feel kind of obligated to call this one. He's definitely a rack. This common just holy moly! Let's have kings, baby. I'm not getting emotionally that often, but when you flop quads in a four-way squeezed pot, I think you can get some holy molies out there. What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. I'm going to play live on Zoom 200 cash game. I haven't been playing cash game for a while, but before I'm going to jump into the action, I want to make you aware of one of our recent videos that have been released. It's a video about live cash game leagues. We start with the very first league, defending to white from the big blind. This video has been produced by Fallout 86 and Mario 5. Raise Your Edge cash game coaches. Fallout 86 is the flagship of Pokerstrategy.com. He has been producing content now for many years. Mariano is not only very good in cash games, but also in sit and goes. He has been crushing mid stakes and high stakes sit and goes, and then transitioned over live cash game. And he's doing very well there. And now for almost a year, we have been working and creating a course for live cash games, because I think it's a very popular format. And yeah, they are releasing now a lot of very good content for live cash games on YouTube. And then I think in 1 or 2 months we will be releasing the live cash game course. And so you get an idea about their philosophy, their approach. So make sure you follow, and you will be notified about all the videos that will be released in the next couple of weeks. A lot of very high valuable stuff about live cash games that you can incorporate in your game right away. If you want to find out more about our coaches, you can go to our website, raiseyouredge.com, meet the team, about us, the team here, Mario 5 and Fallout 86. But you can also join our Discord if you have any kind of questions about them. Don't hesitate, join us and then ask your questions. But I would say now we focus on some online cash game. Initially, I wanted to play Zoom 500, but surprisingly, there are no players. I don't know why. I always thought that there's a lot of traffic on Zoom 500. I mean, it's Monday afternoon, but it's maybe not the prime time, but there always have been a lot of players in the Zoom 500 pool. I mean, I'm not playing it regularly, just once in a while. But yeah, as it seems, there are not any players, so we're gonna be playing NL200. And my approach will be very, very similar, as it will be taught in the cash game course, or also as you've seen in my tournament videos or sit and go videos. I always try to come from a very solid GTO-ish fundamental approach, but then trying to exploit my opponents, trying to exploit tendencies. That will, of course, come with experience. That's why I encourage everyone, take it easy, play, get some experience, and then make the correct plays based on what you think your opponents are going to do. I would try to do the same. I think that's the max EV approach. So a mix of GTO and a mix of exploitative. And yeah, let's jump right into the action and let's see what happens. All right, so now I hope my rebuy function, no, it's not. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second again. I'm trying to fix that with the auto rebuy function here. Apparently it's still not working. All right, so as it seems, I sorted it out, but I can also manually rebuy, so it shouldn't be such a big problem. As you can see, I barely have any stats on my opponents, so yeah, I will use a very, very simple HUD. That's pretty close here, but I think we're quite deep, so I can certainly raise this combo. And river, I'm going to bluff here. I think I will have some fold equity against some, let's say 9x with a diamond, 8x with a diamond, and here we want to raise straightforward. This is, by the way, a bad turn call. It just has way too little equity on the turn against my entire range. So like and yeah, with the pocket pair, it's a very with turns. Timed out here. This guy donks into us, so let's say how many tables he plays. I think that's always a very important indicator. Jindy. I think that's fairly close, but big blind I think is a recreational, so I'm gonna call. Yeah, here on the turn, you're drawing that against all flushes. Even against my barrel range, you have like, what if you don't hit your ace? You just put in too much money on the turn. Most of my hands I'm barreling on the turn. He's either way behind, or I'm going to fire the river because I have a lot of very natural bluffs, like Jack 10s, Queen Jacks, and then he can't really call down with those hands because he doesn't have a proper bluff catcher, and then he's just going to put too much money on the turn. But yeah, he is actually 4-tabling, so he seems to be regular, but I'm going to give him the tag for a weaker rec, and or let's say not necessarily a weaker rec, but I don't know how I know how to exploit him, so I'm going to yeah, keep that in mind. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad reg or anything. It's just I have a read on him where I know what to do against him. And yeah, pocket deuces is actually a close open race. Let's see if this guy is because he makes it quite big. I definitely want to fold out. I want to fold some of the bottom pairs, but he's 4-tabling, so I think he's a good rec. So yeah, I think important in cash games, also live, is that you really try to follow an exploitative strategy and not to play too GTO-ish. So I really try to play my hand max EV. By the way, we also already doubled up. Where was the hand? I think it was pretty interesting. Here, 200 bigs deep. We can do both. I prefer squeezing because people will call a lot of pairs. So Queen 10 off. I have King 10 or Ace 10. I might be check raising, but this 10 is a little too weak to get it in. Now we can just bomb the river. We have a lot of perceived busted draws like 5-6, 7-5. Jack 9, Queen Jacks we're floating with, so I think we can put in a very large bet here. Yeah, so here we flat on the button. Flop is Jack 8-3, very dynamic board. I bet rather big. I definitely want to have some bigger bets here as well. And he check raises. By the way, this King 5 off pre-ante, mostly in a non-ante button. Or non-anti button ranges are usually a little stronger than in tournaments, so they just open 40 to 50%, and then it's a 2.5x without antes. I think I would be defending King 8 often better. This is a bit too small, so this we can easily call and play a flop. And as you can see, a lot of pre-flop decisions are based on very simple mathematics. How big is your opponent open raising? And that's not fancy stuff. It's simply just putting in some work, learning odds and outs. It's not about yeah, to play fancy or bluffing post-flop. The very first step in order to become a good poker player is to understand the pre-flop stuff. Pot odds, range awareness, playing against a tight and a loose range. That's very, very simple stuff. Here we should be careful. I mean, I don't know if he's a reg or not, but he should be checking this board also quite some time with his overpairs because we have a lot of 6x in our range. Yeah, we're just going to call down here, of course. He could even be very betting Jack 10 or Queen Jack. What did he has? Jack 9. King Queen, easy call here. Cut off his button. This is actually a very good board for our range because we have 6s, 5s, 9s, some 7, 8 suited. We have some jacks, 10s, queens that we don't want to get pre-flop. And he has all the all the broadways. He might be 3-wing king jack. We don't have ace king. He does, so he has missed this board quite frequently as well. I think I want to start bluffing this combo. We not really have any jack 10s, queen jacks. Especially with a club blocker, we can bluff some rivers. So I'm gonna start putting in a bet. If he has pot control with something like ace-6, 6-7 suited, yeah, I'm gonna value bet this river as well. And would actually, I don't know how good he is, but he should definitely be checking back some overpairs. I was almost about to fold. The problem is if I only bluff my flush draws, like I also want to check call some nut flush draws. Oh, that's a very sweet jam by him. But we have a lot of boats. It's actually not the worst bluff catcher because we block queens. Not sure if he's jamming aces or kings. We block kings. He could have ace 5 suited. That's two combos, ace 5 suited. He could be shoving something like ace 7, ace 8. Not sure if he jams ace queen. I think I'm gonna bluff catch this one. Yeah. I think it's against a good opponent. One of the hands we want to be bluff catching with. I'm gonna choose a big sizing here because it gives us a lot of. The bluffs you want to choose on this sizing, on this board with a big sizing are a lot of hands that have a lot of playability on later streets. I'm going to give him the stronger rec tag. I'm not sure if it's a genius jam, but it's definitely, I'm going to second barrel this blank here. I think a lot of good hands would be raising the flop on this storyboard. I think he has a lot of floats. And we can jam some good rivers against an MP range. He's not full stacked, so it should be fine. So the problem is you only bluff flush draws. You don't really have any bluffs when the flush gets there, right? So I want to be bluffing some hands. And I'm not really defending king 10 or queen jack, jack 10 off that often. In position, easy call here. So I want to stab some king queens, maybe king jacks with a club that block his continuing range, and I already have fold equity against his ace jacks, ace 10, eventually some ace kings, ace queens, and then I can continue bluffing on the queen. I think this is a fold probably, but without any backdoors, I'm just giving up this flop. Same on the turn. Just try to check it down. Yeah, river. I think his pre-flop 3-bet might be a little. I'm not too sure about it. I think flop check is fine. Wouldn't mind a bet. I think this is a very player dependent spot, whether you want to bet or not. Against a very aggressive player, you probably want to be checking back. Against the average player, betting is fine, that are not raising often enough. Against the 3x, he is a recreational, so I'm going to call. I think against a solid range, it's a fold. Definitely want to be pot controlling. If he checks again, I'm going to put in a raise, I think. I think I get some value from his flush draws. He might be, Like, of course, he has ace, queen, ace, jack. 2 overs in the backdoor flush draw. We have to call. And we're going to call here as well. And river. That's a bit annoying. He's a wreck. I'm gonna make a tight fold. It's definitely very close here with king jack, with a backdoor flush or 2 overs. I think his sizing here is a lot of 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s. I think aces, kings, queens would very often put in some checks, and this is a great turn. It's a paired. I mean, yeah, as I said, I don't believe he has that many aces, so I'm gonna raise here. I'm definitely gonna raise. I also think that smaller flushes would bet a little smaller. They don't want to put in too much money on the flop, so because again, smaller flushes can still be dominated by bigger flushes, right? So yeah, I mean, he can have that. Don't get me wrong, but I think he should be very careful about this sizing with smaller flushes in the long run. So I think more often he should be having 6s to kings, and he can even go for a thin value bet on the turn, and then he can't really continue against my raise. Of course, here we are going to raise, and we're committed against this guy. Anyway. I think if you play 30 bigs and you open 3x, it's already a sign for a recreational player. This would be really annoying if we bet and we get it jammed on here. I think we very often dominate his flatting range, consisting of king queens, king jacks, ace queens. So I'm gonna now bet small here, just to charge his weaker ace size, ace queens, ace jacks that might call once. And here, I think our ace deuce, I think that if he has a queen or 9, he would be very often checking back. So I think betting and checking both is fine. I'm gonna go for a check call. It's really hard to bluff this spot as a bet check bet. I like his preflop raise. It's a board we want to be betting with a very high frequency, but we're very deep. Don't want to start blowing a pot. And I'm going for a turn call. If he bets, I'm going to bet myself to just make him fold 7-8 in clubs and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, just to fold out some air. I can easily be value betting a queen, or I mean, it's a sizing I'm probably not using that often with my stronger hands, but against his range, he has all these 8-9s and 7-6s. Interesting preflop raise size. It's a very thin open raise, but it should be fine. I receive a lot of questions about the proper preflop open raise size, and it's very important to consider that it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, in terms of whether you open raise 2.3x, 2.4x, 2.5x, it's don't put too much. Oh, he's insta snap calls. I'm going to check call this flop. I mean, we have some very interesting blockers. We're definitely going to call the flop. He has all the ace queens, all the ace jacks, some 8-7 suited. And we're going to call the turn as well. I prefer calling jacks than aces on this spot because I think king, queen, king, jack is checking back very often anyway. I'm going to check raise this flop. Not against this sizing. Because he's one tabling, so sign for recreation. And we have an easy fold. Even some random bluffs with 8-7 got there. We block ace jack. I mean, we block queen jack, but yeah, I think he very often has a set. Just nothing we can do. Turn with an easy fold here. Flop raising is not really an option to me because we just raise in too many nutted hands. He still has... I think here I would do a mix of calling and 3-betting. Against the recreational, I would always 3-bet. Against the rec, I would mix in some flat call to a certain frequency. And yeah, we just played this king-queen hand against this atomic guy, so I'm not really sure if he's now... if he's gonna make another sick bluff here. So yeah, even your open raise sizing. So let's say king 10 off, right? We have a bunch of unknowns. And you just want to steal the pot. You make it a little smaller. If you have a noun, recreational or big fish in the blinds, you raise your bigger, better hands a little bigger. It's that easy. King 3 off usually should be a fold here. I'm not sure. This guy is 2 tablings, so he might be a rec. He might be recreational. I don't know, but I would usually fold, especially that deep, if I know that he's a rec. But with the likelihood of him being a recreational, then I'm limping it, and I think this board... I should also do a lot of checking, but people are not raising as much as they should. Against this sizing, it's probably leaning a little bit more towards call or 3-bet. Against the bigger size, 2.5, I would be folding against a good opponent. I'm gonna 3-bet or call. It's very important to see who is the big blind. He's 1 tabling, so very likely recreational. So I'm gonna put in a call. Definitely very close. I don't mind folding. It really depends on the big blind. That brings me a lot of EV if I know that he is a recreational player. If he would be a rec, I'm leaning a little bit more towards folding this combo here. And I'm just... I mean, we could definitely check back some aces to pot control, right? Like, ace 6 suited, ace 8 suited. Don't really see the point in betting on flop or turn, but could definitely be bluffing. Oh wow, we're winning this one. That's also very close open raise, 100 bigs, but here also recreational on the button. So that makes it always a little better playing those hands here. Interesting. Okay, we take it. Probably learn Freed has actually a decent hand to bluff with. It's not blocking 8s, it's not blocking 9s. It's also if someone of us, let's say if button has 8s or 9s, like, I mean, you block 8, 9. Yeah, I wouldn't mind bluffing with his queen 3 suited. I'm going to bet very big on the turn. I want to be polarized towards a 10, a very strong 9 eventually, and a lot of draws, of course. So I'm going to put in a very large bet here. I should also have more 10x than he has, and river is another overbet. I think you will have a lot of natural bluff catchers with a 9, so... And he might be peeing with ace queen, ace jack twice, so he's not folding those. He's folding those anyway. It's also important to consider that my kicker does not block his check calls with a 9x. So 9-6 is not opening, but he has all the jack 9s, queen 9s, king 9s. So I think this is a combo unblocking all the 9x that wants to size up a little bit. Usually now I wouldn't, if I play a live cash game, I wouldn't think that deep. Like the things I'm mentioning here is, of course, goes a little deeper because I also enjoy it. It really challenges me to think about certain spots. But in general, like here, it's simply you have trips, you bet big. That will bring you the most profit to think like this. It's not about, okay, what blockers do I have? Like, according to my blocker, am I supposed to be over betting or betting small? That's not the way you want to think. Like here, I have a semi-strong hand. It's a drawy board. He might have some king X. I even have some value against ace deuce, ace 3. He's 3-betting ace queen, ace jack sometimes. So, you know, I don't go so big. If I have, let's say, pocket 5s, I'm going for a fucking overbet. Like, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's up to. And now it's like, whatever. Nasty river. We're gonna just give up. That's my... And he's not even raising the turn. Like, he's for sure a recreational player. That combo always wants to raise the turn. And that's great. You can, as you can see here, also calling wider on the button against cutoff. In these pots, you will lose less money with your weaker value hands because a recreational doesn't really know when to raise his value hands. I mean, he's blocking ace 9. He only needs to be afraid of ace 5 or 5s. But I have all the ace jacks, ace 10s. I have so many draws he can be charging me. So he should definitely be putting in a raise. Here I'm just calling. I want to be raising with a backdoor flush draw. So if I have queen 8 in diamonds, it's much more appealing to me to raise. Jack is not the worst card, but we're not raising the flop, so range is very capped. I'm just gonna bet here to make him fold queen eyes, jack highs without backdoor flush draws. I can borrow some 4x, 3x, 8x turns. So here, same spiel on the turn. I bet according to my hand strength. I'm not thinking about my range, his range. No, I'm thinking about what is my and turn river. We are going to bet quite large. I have all the jack 10s. I have some queen jack diamonds, queen jack hearts. It's a good call by him, of course. Interesting sizing. It's something, yeah, probably fine. You don't want to put in too much money with a king 9 here on such a coordinated, dynamic board texture. Let's see. Button is a very aggressive, very good reg, as we have seen. So I'm going to just fold. And so as you can see, I'm not always just like, oh, everyone is weak, everyone is unknown. No, if I see someone is doing some good things, plays aggressively, I'm also adjusting towards the direction of folding. And this is something, I'm going to raise this combo here, actually. This is something, especially with the 5s, gives a little bit more playability on any deuce and any 4. We block ace 9 and 9s. We protect against queen jack, jack 10s, 10 8s, king queens, king jacks. That's really awkward. Okay, I'm not sure if he's a recreational or a regular. He's two tabling though. I'm really not sure. Usually people are not 3-betting that much, so I'm going to give it fold here. Wouldn't mind clicking it back on the flop and just going bananas, because we block the combo that wants to do exactly having a 3-betting range in this spot on the flop. So yeah. So it's also important to really be honest to yourself, and like, if you see someone that does something good, you can play a little tighter. You don't need to open all the bottom combos. It's get rid of your ego. Gonna second barrel the turn, especially on this board. I think he has a lot of 4x, 6x, some ace jacks, king jacks with one club. Going to check for the. This sizing is so weird. This sizing is so weird. But the problem is he snap check raises the turn, so I feel like I'm getting trapped. So I'm just gonna fold. And then off, of course, we're going to open raise. And since the big blind is seems to be quite good, I'm also going for 2.5. Usually, yeah, you try to open raise a little bigger. It's just a minor adjustment. But everything between, I would say, 2.3x and 3x is totally fine. I think, as I said, especially when you play live cash games, you look at your hand, you look at who's sitting behind, and then you choose the right sizing. This is quote unquote the magic pill for the right open raise sizing. And if there, I hear so many people complaining about, oh, Ben, they call me with 8-4 suited and they suck me out. And then they've open min raise with fucking aces. So if they call everything, then open raise 10 big blinds. That's it. If you have pocket fives, you just want to set mine, then you open raise to, 2 big blinds, 3 big blinds. You make it a little smaller. If you have 10s jacks, you open raise to 3 or 4 big blinds. It's that simple. And I don't get why people are complaining about people calling too many hands pre-flop and then not making the right adjustment. It's like, Ben, what I'm supposed to do in these spots? It's very simple. It's about the pre-flop open raise size, that you just size it up when you know that someone calls you with everything. Here we, of course, going to call. Are we going to call the river? I feel obligated to call the river, but if he sizes it up very big, I would probably fold, and we win a sweet pot here. That's just very bad. That's just very bad. Yeah, that's why, yeah. Sometimes people just get with way too many hands to the river. And the only adjustment you can make if people play a ton of hands, stay patient, play good cards, size up with your value hands. And this is an adjustment a lot of players are not even doing, that they are still 2xing, 3xing with their strong hands. If you stay patient, if you're good to get hand with aces, kings, and your opponent's VPIP 80%, 70%, which is very likely in casino games, then you open raise to 5 big blinds, 6 big blinds. Don't think like, oh no, my hand is obvious. No, your opponents they just want to have some fun. They want to flick in some money. They want to see some flops. Stein Anger, let's see, he 2 tables, this guy. Probably want to be more often raising with queen jacks, or yeah, I think against the sizing we can raise. We dominate some weaker flush draws. That's interesting. I think like I'm gonna second barrel. I think he will have some king queen in spade flows, king jack spade flows. I'm gonna second barrel the turn. Definitely have some fold equity against some 10x. So don't hesitate too much on blanks. There's still some floats in their range, and we'll combine with our equity. It's totally fine to bluff. Usually when you have a draw, you can always second barrel the turn, because yeah, he might have some like jacks, queens that he peels once. He can have king 10, queen 10, jack 10 that he will be folding a certain frequency, especially when he has something like queen 10 with the queen and clubs, right? He's like, well, I have the queen and clubs. I block a lot of draws. What I'm going to do here? So you don't need that much fold equity, and all in all makes it a good bluff then. If the river breaks, we just check fold because we block a lot of his folding range. We could be bluffing, let's say, we could be, the bluffs we would have is something like jack 9, jack and clubs. I would also be raising the flop. And then if the we can proceed because we make him fold queen high flush draws, king high flush draws, and it's much better to bluff with a, let's say, jack high flush draw or 9 high flush draw. But when you already have the strongest flush draw in your range, you can't make him fold weaker flush draws. This kind of sucks here, but I think we're quite deep. We have a relatively strong set, so I feel kind of obligated to call this one. He's definitely a rack. This combo just holy moly! Let's have kings, baby. I'm not getting emotionally that often, but when you flop quads in a 4-way squeezed pot, I think you can get some holy molies out there. I hope he goes bananas. I think also flat here. Jack 9 suited against the recreational, almost a min raise from under the gun. I think he has a good hand. The reason why I'm also leaning towards calling these hands preflop, not only because I'm going to flop quads, is that usually people are not so aggressive with their ace queens, ace jacks, ace kings post flop when they squeeze those hands. So we have a little higher equity. And when you look into the solver tools, these 7s, 8s, 9s, they're very often interesting. Yeah. I mean, this is, I really don't like his, I mean, depends how he constructs his range. Let's say if he squeezes ace 4, ace 5, but I think that's very aggressive. I usually wouldn't be folding king queen here. Because his value combos, and these spots when the value combos are very narrow, he has like, here with the backdoor straight draw 4 or 6, I definitely want to peer once, but I'm going to fold the turn. If he, like, let's say we have king queen, right? He has 6 combos of aces. He has, I don't know, maybe he checks ace king sometimes on flop, and let's say he has 6 to 8 combos, 6 to 8 combos of ace king, so you know, it has 10 to 12 combos. Now if he fires his ace 4s, ace 5s, some busted flush draws, and it's so easy to overbluff to get to those 5, 6, 7 combos that will allow me to call down with king queen. So yeah. Definitely a bossy play. Definitely want to size up on the flop here. King deuce 3 is a very good board for my range because he's not calling king deuce, king 3 offsuited. I also have king deuce, king 3 suited in my range, so this board gives me huge nut advantage. And whenever you have a nut advantage and you can allow yourself to polarize your range, you definitely want to incorporate some bigger sizings as well. And especially when you unblock top pairs, so deuces, 3s, or ace king, king queen, king jacks, king 10s, they can all size up very much on this flop. You can mix in some very strong flush draws like ace 4s, ace 5s that later on can play for stacks. something like king 4, king 5, king 8. You can mix in some smaller sizings or pocket kings. It's a close defend against the 3x, but yeah, he's one tabling, so I'm gonna 3-bet call this hand pre-flop. I think king queen suited 40 bigs, just too strong. And yeah, we here with a backdoor gut shot. I'm gonna call once. I mean, it sounds a little bit, but I would prefer calling this hand than, let's say, 8-7 in hearts. So I think 7-4 in hearts we have to call once. All right, good luck, us. You might have bluff raises. I don't want to call because he might still be raise folding with 10-9 exactly like this. And then if he hits a 10 or 9, he's not folding anymore, but now he's folding, which is, wow, interesting. People do some very interesting things here. Let's say just because he limps doesn't necessarily mean he's a recreational, but here also, if I would have aces, I go to 10 or 12. If I have a queen jack, I just want to isolate, I go a little smaller. That's how I play poker now for the last couple of years. And it still works out very well because I know people are not adjusting. There might be once in a while, there might be a regular that watches my video and now he recognizes the same spot and he's like, hey, last time I watched the video and now he sizes it down. I'm going to 3-bet 8-4 off. Yeah, it would work out very well, but I prefer losing money against 3 regulars from 100 players or pool of 100 players. But then this play makes me money against 97 other players. So I prefer getting exploited by 3% in order to make more money against 97%. That's how I see it. And I think that's also a good way to approach it and also let go a little bit of your ego, because a lot of players are afraid they get exploited. It's like, yes, if you play an exploitive style, you will get exploited. And that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. And I'm also totally aware of it. Yeah, I think it's a hand that wants to 3-bet here very often. He plays only 50 bigs, so I'm 3-betting a little smaller. Just because someone 3x doesn't necessarily mean he's uber strong. We should be a little more careful, but these hands that are good 3-bets pre-flop, we should go ahead and 3-bet those hands. I'm gonna limp fold this one pre-flop. I'm just gonna protection bet against something like king 9 in clubs. Ace queen off is just a call. Might be in GTO sometimes it's 4-bet, but I think the way people play post flop, it's much better just to call. We will for sure over realize our equity against most opponents in a 3-bet pot. Oh, that's interesting. I think he has something like 10s or jacks. He 3-bets 5s. Wow. People play more solver style these days. It's definitely a good 3-bet, I would say. It's a fine 3-bet to a certain frequency. We definitely want to put in a raise here. Should be very careful c-betting this board. I think this board is definitely being over c-bet for most players. We have deuce 3 suited, we have ace 4, ace 5 off suited, and maybe not off suited. What was the sizing? Against the sizing, yes, we certainly do. So this is, for example, a board where he can have some bigger bets as well because he has aces, because he has ace 5, ace 4 suited. He has pocket 4s and pocket 5s and pocket 4s. But we also have all these 2 pairs in our range. We have also ace 5, ace 4 off. We have deuce 3, so we have an equal amount of nuts in our range. We actually have a slight nut advantage. So he just doesn't want to go ahead and auto c-bet everything. Because his middle part of his range is like 10-9 in diamonds or king, queen, and spades. Against our aces, they're pretty much dead, right? So he's putting in too much money with a lot of 0 to 10% equity hands. And this can hurt your win rate a lot. Especially when against good opponents, they will also start check raising like 4-3 in clubs and 4-7 in clubs. So all these hands where you're not even realizing your equity against you're not even realizing your equity against the check calls. Let's say against the weaker opponent, fine, because he check calls his ace, his 6-5 in or let's say 6-4 in clubs, and you might hit your king or queen on the turn, right? Yeah, we just go straight for value, I would say here. And we bet the river for value. Usually I would lean more towards calling. But I think also the big blind is still, and as you've seen, it's the first 3-bet from the big blind this session. So I'm going to forward. Wow, he had 10-9. Yeah, I was actually thinking to size up, but then I actually expected him to 3-bet a lot of these combos. King 10 in diamonds, 10-9 in diamonds, Jack 10 in diamonds, at least to a certain frequency. So he doesn't have that many flushes. So I also want him to give the opportunity to eventually raise with a hand like 9s, 10s with 1 diamond. These are the very, very likely calling hands, because if I overbet or check, he's just checking bad or betting small. Yeah. Or actually, most likely just checking back, right? His jacks to pocket 5s. There's actually very often a call here with the offsuited combo with a certain frequency. So I'm going to call. Here they're only racks behind, so I think it's both fine calling and 3-betting. I at least lean a little more towards 3-betting this one. Also allows you to give, especially when people peel a lot of smaller pairs, to give you a lot of set mine. I mean, this is the disadvantage, right? But he makes it quite small, doesn't he? But I think we can't call anymore, and we're out. Thank you. Kaboom! We would have won the first one. Jack 7 suited is very, very close. Jack 8 suited I would call. Jack 7 suited I lean more towards folding. Ranges in cash games are a little stronger than in tournaments, so. And there, as you can see, there's so many people that make a lot of mistakes here. So why would I put myself in a marginal spot where I'm also not really sure? Like, I know Jack 8 suited is a defend, Jack 6 suited is a fold. So Jack 7 suited is like, okay, you can have it. I wait for all these spots that are printing me a lot of money. Like here, kings. I know this guy just spazzes around with, I don't know, his pocket 5s. We go bet, bet, bet. Get a lot of value. We're gonna start with a small flop bet. He's a Brazilian. One tabling. I'm not saying that always Brazilian are recreationists, no, but Brazilians can, my Brazilian friends out there, they know they can make some crazy plays. So I definitely want to go for value here. We got the safest. Queen 8 off. It's actually sometimes an open. He is a rec against the recreation and the big blind. Oh, we definitely will want to time out here. What is the right sizing? We want to jam. Do we want to jam? He calls twice. I think he has a blasted flush draw or a pair he's calling anyway. Like if he's a pair, some sort of maiden he's calling anyway, so I'm just gonna jam. And yeah, I think he has a busted flush draw. we're gonna call here. Don't really want to be raising with someone behind us that can have all the ace-6, ace-5s, 6s and 5s. Against this sizing, I'm probably gonna raise. Fire Factor. Well, no, he's actually 3-tabling. That's interesting. Okay, against the recreational, I would have raised. Okay. What happened here on the flop? What is he doing? He min raises from under the gun. Okay, I missed a little bit the action. He check called, floats. What the fuck? Okay, he seems to be a recreational. Yeah. Easy squeeze here. We can just give up here. I think I'm gonna bet twice now. I mean, we block Jack 10. We block Ace Jack, which is a very legit bluff catcher. He has some King Jacks, King 10s, Queen Jacks, Queen 10 suited. So yeah, I think I go for overbet and jam river actually. I'm gonna pause the video for a second because I need something to drink, and then I'll be back in a sec. Just finish here. Ace Jack suited. We open. Ace King suited. I think I'm gonna. Oh, he 3-bets very big. Yeah, I think I want to 4-bet and get it in. With the suited combo. Bet very small. And we jam the river at the turn. Ace King versus Ace King. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Alright, so let's continue the action. Ace 3 off against early MP opens. I'm probably leaning more towards folding against the 3x open from the cutoff. I'm also just folding. Ace 7 suited. Also just a hand we mostly want to play against late positions. And ace jack off, we just have a call. I'm going to 3-bet here. I think now we can squeeze. Plays perfect as a bluff, easy fold against the 4-bet, dominates some hands they might be calling with. I'm gonna c-bet here. Definitely want to keep the action here on my side. We block ace queen, ace 7. We might have a good hand that eventually wants to go triple barrel. King queen off, I think I'm just gonna call. We have some fold equity against 10-9s, pocket 8s. Maybe not on this turn, but yeah, I think I wanna second barrel this turn. And depends on the river. If the diamond gets there, I'm probably giving up. This is really nasty. I think he now has too many snap calls with like All the queen X in diamonds, ace jack diamonds, ace 10 diamonds, king jack diamonds, king 10 diamonds, 10, 7, 6 in diamonds, ace 7 in diamonds. Yeah, it's now we just want to give up. If we have some sort of diamond blocker, it would be an excellent hand to bluff jam the river. Let's say we have king jack off, like king jack off, king and diamonds. We have king 10 off with king and diamonds if we opted to 3-bet those. If we have, let's say, eventually some ace kings with ace and diamonds or king and diamonds. So we can have some bluffs there. I think on the river I'm going to call it here. He's representing fours, ace 4, yeah, or something like this. Pretty straightforward call there. Interesting that, oh, that's... Okay, we're going to play a limp pot. Let's see what happens. Definitely interesting to know. Opens, deuce, UTG, 100 big blind. Usually people don't open all the pairs, so it's good to know that he has those in his range. And he snapped 3 bets. I think this is a little too loose. And we call and play a flop. And we're going to call once here. I think we can now play for stacks. We can bet the turn and jam the river. I mean, of course, he has ace king, ace queen, but he also has ace 10s, ace 8s, ace 7 suited. I think ace 10 is not so likely because it would very often check the turn. What can we get value from? That's the problem I have a little bit here. Papa Donk. Papa Donk. He's a recreational. Yeah, I think it would be too greedy. He still has all the ace kings, ace queens, ace jack. Gonna open limp. He just won tables, so it's very likely recreational. I mean, sometimes you never know. Might play regular tables, and then he mixes in some, yeah, 1 tables of Zoom. Eight, 7 suited, beautiful hand. Blinds are too recreational, so I definitely want to be opening this hand, even though it's more frequently an open fold. Gonna check this one. I'm gonna go for a little bit protection here against ace queens, ace jacks. I think a 10 or 9 would very often bet on the flop, so I just want to maybe get some value from king queens, king jacks, and if the river breaks, we have a very nice bluff catcher. I'm gonna open the jack 7 suited again here to recreational. As you can see, the pool is very soft. So just gonna call here with 2 racks in the blinds. 3 betting would be fine as well. Interesting flop. I'm definitely sizing up on this flop. Pinocchio has some very natural check calls like ace kings, queen jacks, pocket jacks. And even if he folds those against this big sizing, I don't mind. It's a ton of equity. All right, daily quads part 2. Yeah, it's very important that you focus a little more on the recreational. Yeah, I think if he has a flush draw, a king or queen, he's calling anyway. I'm gonna call here. He could be raising with a 5 or 3 for protection against our hearts. And he had the random ace or just spazzing around. And we have an easy jam on the river, of course. People do really weird things, I mean, just because I bet small doesn't mean, of course, I'm weak, but doesn't mean that I'm going to fold. And on a lot of runouts, I'll be very well protected. That's a very, very bad call down, especially with the ace and clubs, but he's recreational. I'm gonna ISO raise here. Oh, this sizing is way too small, way super deep. It's a little bit more than 3x. There's already a limp in the middle. Okay, he goes for the limp jam. Very small sizing happening on this board. Usually just want to be attacking his auto folds like 8-9 in diamonds or king 3 in clubs. Yeah, just fold this one. If I want to call the squeeze here, I want to be calling hands that dominate small blinds over calling range. So something like king jack suited, queen jack suited, king queen suited, because I'm pretty sure people will always overcall hands like 10-9 suited, 9-8 suited, which isn't that good, especially when you're out of position. And keep in mind, if there's a squeezer, so he already has a Broadway ace-x heavy range, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, kings, queens, jacks, tens. We overcall, and that's very likely 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, ace queen, ace jack suited. So if you have 10-9 suited or jack 10 suited as an overcaller, you're not going to flop something so often. Very good board for orange. He should be 3-betting 8s to a certain frequency. The only hands he can really have is queen 8 and ace 8. And if you have an ace or queen where you block these combos, so I think I'm going to size up a little bit here already. Get some value from queen x, 8x. And that's a very nasty, oops, that's a misclick. That happens when you click around everywhere. Yeah, I think we have to check back. Not sure. Are we greedy? We could go for the fancy 1/3. If he raises, we jam. Represent ace queen or aces. I don't know. Like, it's a weird hand. Don't really know what to do on the river because you usually never end up being in this game tree. I'm gonna overbet the river here. Since he just called, check the flop, call the turn, his range is very, very capped. So the queen 5 effectively play the nuts here, and we can go for some very large betting here. Especially that he doesn't have king jack, he doesn't have ace queen, he would raise it pre. So we can also bluff on this run out a shit ton of hands. So basically all 3x, 4x, diamonds, something like random 8-9, 7-8 that we might have stepped. Moses 360. He's a German fellow. He's 2 tabling, so could be rec, could be recreational. I'm definitely gonna go for big value here. Represents so many busted draws, jack 9, queen 9, 7-9. Sometimes I'm betting very quick as a bluff, sometimes I'm betting very quick for value. I think it just sometimes irritates people and they level themselves too much into it. That's that's weird. That's a spot you can very easily solve because we have all the 8x in the world, like literally all the 8x. So it's such an easy fold. It's so easy to defend, especially with the weaker 10x. Like we can consider calling ace 10 or king 10 and just bet forward the weakest 10x. And you don't really need to worry about his range. I don't know what he's up to. And that's what I like so much about GTO, that it brings me so much confidence and peace in those spots that I don't really need to worry that much about what's going on here. Oh, is he bluffing me or not? I don't care. I have so many natural calls in this spot. And I also think it's very often value heavy, because if he has something like Jack 9, 7, 9, he would very often just barrel it through. So he needs to be bluffing super random against our 10x. And yeah, I would definitely call ace 10, king 10. But if I have like 10, 6, 10, 9, 10, 7 suited, Jack 10s, I would just fold. Don't really see the point in making a big hero call. All right, I'm gonna go and sit out. Let's play the last couple of hands here. Button is a recreational, so I'm gonna size that up a little bit. If you 3-bet, I'm just gonna call. I don't want to put in 200 big blinds with ace king. I mean, against the small blind range, an aggressive Russian for 160 bigs, I think we can 4-bet. I think we can 4-bet for value. We're in position. I think ace king suited and queens plus are the hands. Maybe kings plus ace king suited. The hands I want to be 4-betting for value here. And we start with a bet, and depends on the run out, but usually we can just triple bet. And they have king queens, ace jacks, ace 10 suited. I think against the 4-bets they will call very often. And turn, we're gonna second barrel for sure. He was tanking, he was not snap calling. Not sure if he has a sizing tail there. Nah, we just want to go straight for value here. And we have a decent stack to pot ratio on the river to put it all in. If he jams, we have to call. I mean, I don't like my life, but in this spot, but we block aces. Very often we're splitting against ace king as well. Yeah. Yep. I like the way he played it, just calling pre. Allows himself to have all the bluffs in my range. So yeah, I think that's a very good play. A lot of players, he seems to feel very comfortable playing post-flop out of position. You can so a lot of players, they just rip it, which would be legit. I think it's plus EV, or 5-bet stack it off to not play out of position. I really like the way he played this hand. I think it's fine. Maybe with a spade blocker, you just want to call. Turn is a bit, I slightly prefer the call because he's blocking all my draws. So I might be spazzing around with something. That's why you just want to call pre-flop, right? To let me hang myself. Especially since my 4-betting range, 4-bet bluffs a lot of king 9 suited or king 8 suited or something like ace 10 off or ace 8 suited. Like these are the typical 4-bet bluffs in the spot. So yeah, I prefer a little calling, but jamming is fine as well for obvious reasons. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure that, especially about playing exploitative with a bit bet sizings pre-flop, that you incorporate that in your game, especially when you play very fishy games. That's very, very important. And as you've seen here, also as a takeaway, if you play against good opponents, and I think there's certainly a lot of players in this pool that might be better in cash game, because I'm playing it so rarely. I barely study it. I just use it to train my post-flop skills, because in tournaments, you're not playing 100 big blinds that often. You just need to be very solid, right? You need to understand how ranges work. But of course, if there's some people that study it day in, day out, they will clearly have an advantage. And then it's totally okay to stay away a little bit and not get involved in all the marginal spots. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I was or I'm still so successful in poker and made a lot of money, that I can let go of my ego, get away from marginal spots and not getting involved against better opponents. And this eventually then might even give me an edge against opponents that might be technically better, but they have a wrong mindset, punt it away against better opponents and get involved into marginal spots, and I just take the high EV spots. Doesn't mean that if I see where is a spot, I recognize a spot as a good bluff spot, and to make a huge bluff, to overbet or whatever, that I'm not going to take it. I will still put myself in uncomfortable positions in order to learn, to grow. But at the end of the day, it's about not bullshitting yourself, being able to detach yourself from position, clearly understand whether it's a good play that you're about to make, or you're just bullshitting yourself and you're just it's just your ego that overtakes you and tells you, oh no, you cannot let your opponent run over you, and you need to play back at all cost. Take that into consideration, and then I think you will be you will perform much better, and you will also, have a much calmer mind, and you play way more decisive and see things more clearly. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions, and then see you guys in Discord. Bye bye. Ciao.